Welcome back to Uncontested Investing. I'm Tim Harris. Thank you so much for swinging back by today. Remember, if you're listening, click below, like, subscribe, comment, give us a review. Let us know you're there. Let us know what we can do better, or if you think we're doing a good job. Today, longtime friend of mine, Ray Negrete. Ray, thank you for being here.
Thank you. I'm humbled to be here.
So, Ray, you are the owner of Rehab Squad.
That's right.
A general contracting company here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Why don't you just take a minute and just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Ray Negrete, owner of Rehab Squad, General Contractors. I've been in the real estate game for about 13 years. Actually started off as an investor and then kind of gradually worked my way into a contractor. I don't have like this cool story of my father being like a builder or a master carpenter or electrician or whatever. Both my parents were entrepreneurs in their own right. But basically, I just got into the investment game, got screwed by a lot of contractors, and just thought there's got to be a better way. And built a pretty kick-ass team, and then took it from there. I just basically got hired to do little small stuff, and people would ask me like, "Hey, you got a painter I can use?" Like, "Yeah, sure, man. Here's my painter's contact. I'm sorry." And then when I needed my painter, he wasn't there because he was doing a job for Tim Harris, and I was like, "No, man." So then I figured out, like, well, there's got to be a better way, right? So I started taking the painter out there, giving me a price, and I marked it up. I've always been in that mindset. I've always been an opportunist, and I saw the opportunity and basically became a contractor. And for the last 13 years, been doing jobs for other investors.
Well, like I said, man, thank you for being here. So the first segment every week is the bottom line up front. Old military guy, the bluff, used to tell us, if you're briefing the general, you got to tell them the most important thing up front in case they need to leave. So imagine there's an entrepreneur out there listening and they're about to pull over and get gas, and you know how it goes. Your phone rings, you forget to turn it back on, what have you. I want you to take up to 2 minutes and tell the audience the most important things that you're seeing in today's market, the things that you think people should be focusing on, maybe some things they should be avoiding. Really just kind of, I guess, summarize what we're going to talk about for the next 30 minutes. You good to go?
Yeah, man.
Go.
I mean, honestly, I can only talk from a general contractor's perspective. Even though I'm dabbling into real estate now again, after being absent for so long, I can only talk as a general contractor. And me, like, I'm a firm believer in building relationships. I mean, you're as strong as your weakest link, right? So I have had work from hundreds of investors in DFW, and I've done well over 1,000 rehabs that I lost count. But if you don't build that relationship with people, I mean, you're always going to be going from one GC to the next GC. You're hiring truck in the truck gentlemen, and that can be a nightmare. And I learned this the hard way. That's how I got into, being a general contractor. I started as an investor, and I got screwed by so many contractors. I've been there, I've done that. I've spent the thousands of dollars that it took me to learn that hard, very hard lesson. So firm believer in relationship building. Find someone you trust, vet them, treat them well, and stop trading, time for money. Delegate. I mean, you got into this business to run a business. So what are you doing at Home Depot? What are you doing at Floor & Decor? Hire someone you trust. Let them do all the legwork, and then enjoy your free time or grow the business. Whatever you want to do with your free time is yours. Family, grow the business bigger and better, but just stop trading time for money.
So one of the things I always laugh about in the investor industry is on Facebook. There's a lot to laugh about on Facebook. People will make a post looking for investor-friendly title company, looking for investor-friendly GC. And so often it's code for, I'm looking for someone that will provide great quality and service for really, really cheap. And it's always funny for me, the first thing people do, investors want to do, is haggle about price, but then they want to complain about the service, right? Or they haggle about price, but then they complain that it's not up to a certain tier, right? How have you navigated that? I'm going to kind of dive all the way headfirst in. How have you navigated that mindset from the customer base of they want it cheap? What is it? You got to pick one of the two of the three. Cheap, good, and fast. Right? How have you navigated that in your business?
Just be upfront. I'm transparent from the get. I get a call. Hey, can you come out to 123 Main Street, give me a bid? Who are you? Can you tell me more about your business? How long have you been in real estate? How many flips have you done? Is this your first? What is your exit strategy? Do you have time for a cup of coffee? Let's go grab a drink, cold or hot, your pick, right? But I get to know them. I tell them from the beginning I'm relationship based. If they don't have time to sit down with me and have a cup of coffee, then I don't have time to go out and give them a bid.
So that's interesting. So have you ever, the book Simon Sinek wrote, Start With Why, it's really been resonating on me recently at RCN Capital because it's a very transactional relationship.
Yeah.
Right. People call, first thing people say, what's your rates?
Yeah.
Right. What's your LTV? Right. It's not how long have you been in business? Do you close on time? Do you lie? Do you, they don't ask the real important questions. They've been trained to, right? So they may call you, well, how much per square foot for paint? It's like, I don't know. Is it 9 stories? Is it 2 stories? Is it, do I have to texture it first? Am I painting over tobacco walls? Like, I find that interesting. And I agree with that. Like, yeah, if I'm just one of 25 bids, I guess you're saying that's just not the business you run.
Right. Yeah, I'm not in the bid giving business, you know what I mean? Like if I got paid to do it, I wouldn't do it. It takes hours, not including the travel time. It can be 3 or 4 hours to write up a bid. So if you're just shopping, then I'm sorry. Like you got to build a relationship first. I'm very referral based. I'm very relationship based. So like if I don't know you, like if you just found me on Google, that's totally cool. Like I have good relationships with existing clients that found me on Google. But like I try to get to know them first. I try to get to know their business first. How can I help you? Are we a good fit? Because it will be a relationship. We're gonna be in bed with each other for 3 or 4, 6, 9 months. Like let's get to know each other first.
So it's interesting. I should have you on one of these. Last year, I started a couple times a month holding what I call the investor hour, where I bring someone in that I've known or I know of or I know what they do, and I have them talk to our sales team, but from the angle of what our end customer's going through.
Sure.
Right. What are our customers thinking? What are they feeling? Right. Because so much of our job really is to be of service.
Correct.
Right. Like, well, how fast can you close? Well, how much do you want to pay? Right. If you want to pay 20% in 5 points, I'm pretty sure I can find out how to close tomorrow.
Correct.
Right. At a certain loan to value. Right. Like, so there's all those trade-offs, and that's what I'm always trying to teach is let's get to know them, let's understand them, because that's kind of, I think, how we as service providers can determine whether or not we can actually serve that customer's needs.
Sure. Absolutely, man. I remember there was a point in my career that I was running a couple dozen, rehabs at a time, and now I'm just very selective to like a handful. I can do that now, right? But still, it's because of the relationships. I care more about the relationships now and the repeat business than I do about, just taking your dollar and never seeing you again.
I love taking dollars, but I like to see people again. So what, the last 3 years has been very challenging for a lot of people in the nation, a lot of people in the industry. I think for a lot of definitely general contractors.
For sure.
I was talking to one of my really good friends, him, Zach Coppinger, and labor always tends to lag behind, right?
Sure.
And so we were talking about the price of housing went up, and then the profits went up, and then the price of materials went up. And I think then all of a sudden in the last 12 to 18 months, the people doing the work were kind of like, hey, man, like, I need more money. Like, I took my kids on spring break. We were just talking about driving. You said you just drove back from Florida. I drove my kids to Park City in March, and I'm telling you, we stopped at a McDonald's, and it was me, my 13-year-old son, and 2 of his friends. I was taking them all skiing. It was $50 for 4 value meals, and I was just like, and I don't look at those things that often, and I'm normally not feeding 3 teenage boys. But I was just like, wow, I could have like bought a brisket. How have you navigated the changes? And we can break this up into multiple parts. Let's start with supply chain.
Sure.
Can you talk about how you've provided that consistent service, maintained your relationships, and navigated the material shortages that we've experienced the last couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, you just got to shoot by the hip. So you building relationships is far more than just with clients. You have to, as a general contractor, you have to build relationship with vendors, subcontractors, suppliers. So navigating like the supply chain restrictions that we had it's been a nightmare, but it all falls back to just being transparent. So you always tell your end consumer, your client, let them know what's happening, keep them informed, let them know of the changes, how that's going to affect them. That way it's not a surprise to them. So that, first of all, is just communication. I'm a big over communicator. I'm a firm believer that in running a business, especially as a GC, there's the 3 T's, right? Like you have, not the 3 T's, but like the foundation of the company is communication, organization, and common sense. So common sense will tell you if you're getting emails from your cabinet suppliers that there's shortages or delays, you want to communicate that immediately to your clients and let them know. So you just got to be transparent.
It's funny you say cabinets. My wife and I were working on this big historic house, this big Victorian. The cabinet guys were like, no, we're 12 weeks out. And you're like, what? But then I started talking to them. This is where the communication comes in. They said, everyone's so behind, we actually can't make any more right now because we don't have anywhere to put them. And I was like, well, if you don't make them, you can just put them in the garage here.
Right.
They go, really? It'll be next week. Like, because their receivables were so far behind because they hadn't been able to deliver a warehouse full of, cabinets.
Right.
And you know the deal. You don't pay them till they're in, right? Well, not all of money. So when I heard you say that, it reminded me of that because a little bit of communication and common sense allowed me to solve my timeline problem and their finance problem, right?
Got to communicate, man.
What about labor? How hard has it been? I'm not a fan of, nobody wants to work these days. I don't believe that.
Yeah.
People want to work, but they also got to feed their family.
For sure.
Can you talk about how you've navigated the labor market?
Yeah, so it just falls back to just being, again, the relationship. So everybody that works for me has been working for me for 8 years, 9 years. I don't have anybody that just started last week or last month or last year. Everybody's been there. So when they came to me and they saw the need for more money, I just gave it to them. Like I'm not gonna hold back. I think for a certain part of the industry, like we were spoiled almost. You know what I mean? Because if you go to different markets or in the upstates, New York, or you go to like Chicago or even Washington State, some of those people, the tradesmen, get paid very well. So like here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, I think we were spoiled for a while, but labor did skyrocket. There's some people that were just kind of like taking advantage, and some people deserved it. So if they deserved it, I gave it to them.
So you said, I just give it to them. Clearly, that doesn't mean that you start working for a loss.
Right.
So your job timelines, you said 3, 6, 9 months.
Yeah.
Right. There's bids out there. These materials are coming in. These labor prices are going in. Did you stagger it? Did you go back to your customers with change orders as a business owner? Because there's a lot of people out there trading their time for money right now,
Right.
that are trying to navigate this problem.
Yeah.
How did you handle that? Because you're stuck in the middle. You got this guy that needs to feed his family, and you got this guy that you gave a bid to. You're kind of holding the bag.
Yeah.
How did you navigate that as a business owner?
I bit the bullet. Up front. So if there was any bids out there that we're currently like rehabbing on, I just sucked it up, shot from the hip. If there was bids out there that were signed and we contracted within a certain amount of time, I honored. Anything else, I mean, most of my bids are only good for 30 days anyway, but anything else, I mean, I just started marking things up. So yeah, I mean, it was just like a wave effect, right? That's the way the economy works. You know more about economics than I do, but I want to say that,
Sure.
and I just want to say that, my prices started going up.
Right.
And I mean, I think that until this day, even though we've been in this 3 years almost, people still don't understand. They were paying $25 a square foot for granite 3 or 4 years ago. Why is it $35 now? And if I have to explain that to somebody, we're not a good fit, man.
Well, that's a great part for me to take a break. And we're going to come back, and I want to talk about different categories of materials and labor and supplies and some of the things you've seen and maybe some things that you see coming. So stick around. We'll be right back.
Are you looking for fast funding for your next fix and flip? What about leverage for your next long-term rental or vacation rental? Need capital for a new construction project? Look no further. RCN Capital has you covered. As the leading nationwide lender for real estate investors, RCN Capital offers short-term and long-term financing solutions for your next investment property. RCN Capital takes a common-sense approach to your loan request, offering high leverages and low rates backed by superior customer service. Whether you're investing in single-family properties or multifamily properties across the U.S., RCN Capital has funding options for you with no hoops to jump through and quick closings in as little as 2 weeks. Ready to get a quote for your next investment property? Visit rcncapital.com/podcast to apply today. There is no fee to apply. Again, that's rcncapital.com/podcast to apply today.
Welcome back to Uncontested Investing. I'm Tim Harridge. I'm still here with Ray, but don't forget, click down below, like, subscribe, comment, give us a follow, give us a review. Let us know how we're doing. Ray, I have a question. You just mentioned granite, and there were some times, I'd say the last 3 years, that we were working on a project, and you get that first bid, and the subcontractor hadn't taken the time to have the conversation with like me or my wife, and all of a sudden, that kitchen that you're thinking that you're going to put the granite in for $4,000, it's $6,500, and you're just, it is sticker shock, right? I mean, we both drive nice trucks. Yeah. The sticker shock on those the last couple of years has been just nuts. Oh, yeah. What other core increases have you seen in let's stick with the cost of the supplies and the materials. What have you seen has gone up kind of the most?
I think raw materials in general. So like all the raw materials that they use in paint and things like that, and granite, stone, like anything that comes from raw materials has gone up. So anything, well, almost everything, right? Wood, granite, paint, anything that comes from nature, like raw materials, has gone up significantly.
What's something that hasn't gone up as much as you think it should have? Or could have, I guess. Not should have. None of us think it should go up.
I can't think of anything off the top of my head. I think everything went up.
Like masonite doors, for some reason. Like I saw one for $100 still the other day, and I was just like,
"This is the mass production."
Yeah,
it's the mass production that that comes with it.
I remember it was probably in 2021, sometime maybe early 2022. People were having to drive to Oklahoma to get laminated beams.
Yeah,
because you just couldn't get one in Texas.
Yeah.
What are some other things that you tell us a couple stories about some things that you've had to do in the last couple of years to, I guess, meet your deadlines?
I've done that. I've had to drive to Oklahoma for product, and I've had to store things in my warehouse or garage for people, so they can make room for it. I've done it. So you have to get creative. Just like, being an entrepreneur in general, you just have to kind of shoot from the hip, roll with the punches. So when you see an opportunity, use your common sense and you offer help where you can, or take that drive when you have to.
I went to a mastermind in Fort Worth, and this lady was hosting it in her Airbnb, one of her short-term rentals, and it was a new build. And the first thing I noticed when I walk up is there's this window above the entryway, and it's bricked in, but then there's like it's called for the listener, it's a 2030. It's a little 2 foot wide by 3 foot tall window, and it's got siding around the edges of it inside the brick. And I was like, they couldn't get the window.
Yeah, they made it fit.
And I just remember thinking, like, that's just where we are. How have you seen investors maybe renovating their properties differently to accommodate, like, maybe material shortages, like less tile, more wood, less wood, more tile, more carpet, less wood? What's some things that investors have or you have done to cope with the either the increased labor or lack of availability on materials?
Yeah, so sometimes you just have to bite the bullet, if you want to say that. If you're short windows and you're short windows, maybe just try putting the house on the market without windows and see what happens. I actually helped an investor sell a house where the windows were on order and they were going to be 6 weeks out. We just put it on the contract saying windows are on order, they will be here on this day and they will be installed. Sign right here. I said they bought the house knowing that the windows were coming 6 weeks after they closed.
That's very much a 2021 or 22 story, not a 23.
Yeah.
The market's changed, right? I mean,
It has.
so you were recently on some TV shows.
Yeah.
Talk about that. Which show were you on? Who did you work with? That kind of thing.
Yeah, so I was, humbled enough or blessed enough, I guess you could say, to be on a TV show. The opportunity came to me from a national network, which is A&E. We're on Zombie House Flippers. I was a co-star on it. I only did like a handful of episodes and then just called it a wrap.
And how was that experience?
It was brutal, man, to be honest with you. I was grateful for it, but it was just a lot of hard work. I don't know if I'll do it again, but I was happy to be on it.
See, I know a lot of people that are on TV shows, and it's almost a bucket list item that most of them do not want to do again.
There you go.
I mean, because there's the camera in your face, they're following you around. You got to like do things multiple times, and you're just thinking, no, man, I really got to tell that guy to stop doing that. He's going to cut his finger off, right? You know, it's like,
Don't tell him.
don't tell him yet. Oh, don't tell him.
I get it. But yeah, I feel the same way. You know, I learned a big lesson doing this TV show.
What is like the biggest, I'd say, customer you have? Like one house a month, two house a month. What's kind of I guess the biggest. What's the biggest customer you have right now?
I don't judge them by the quantity, just more like the quality.
Yeah.
And I also focus more as a business owner. I focus more on the revenue. So we can do one house a year, and I can my margins on that will be greater than if we did like 6, smaller ones. So that's how I judge them.
So thank you, because a lot of people will come up to me and ask me, well, how many houses do you have now, Tim? And I've learned in the last couple of years to tell them, well, it's not how many, it's how much.
There you go.
Right? Like if I have $1 million house that I own free and clear that makes me $1 million a year, one will work, right?
Work.
But if I have 300 houses that only make $200 a month in cash flow, it's a cool number.
Yeah.
Doors, right? Like I can talk. Hey, it sounds good on social media, but it doesn't necessarily help my family.
Yeah. Quality over quantity, man.
What have you? How many? But I do want to know how many projects do you think Rehab Squad will manage in 2023?
In 2023, we're probably set out to do about, I want to say around 60.
60. So there's a lot of investors out there that are at that, I'd say 5 to 10 mark.
Yeah.
That they hear these people talking about 50 or 60 rehabs and they want to get there.
Yeah.
Right. Could you talk about some of the challenges you experience owning a company that manages that many rehabs a year? Because I don't think people, because I've done the most I've ever done in a company I owned in a year was 143 flips. And that was back in 2007. And I was miserable. Yeah. I mean, all the wrap trucks and the credit cards just floating around. I mean, it's a nightmare.
It is, man.
It can be very rewarding, but it's a nightmare. How, as a business owner, let's talk to the business owners out there. What are some tips or tricks that you have to manage that many rehabs at a time?
Yeah, well, I want to say like the first challenge is definitely the time. There's just not enough hours in a day. So you got to learn how to delegate and do the things that you don't want to do, just push it somebody else, but you also have to be a good leader. I think believing in yourself and being a good leader and set examples is definitely a good way to like run a business like this.
So how do you think, this is interesting to me. So we have 200 something employees, getting near 300, multiple continents and a lot of, virtual versus in person. And I think we have 5 offices, so we career path, you start here and you work hard, you can get to here and leadership training and all that, but that's a different environment.
Yeah.
How do you lead maybe a contractor that doesn't have the aspirations of being you? Yeah. He or she is just focused on like feeding their family and providing a better life than they had before.
Yeah, I mean, you get to know them. You want to know your people, from the guy who sleeps up after you or the master electrician. you always want to like make sure that you get to know them and get to know their goals, and they got to know your goals as well. Like you have to share that dream, I guess, if you will, because not everybody out there like gets up every day and picks up a drill and a hammer and goes to work because they want to. Some have to, but everybody has an aspiration. But they might not want to be like me. But they might want to own like 3 acres in Waxahachie. They might want to get to a point where they can put their kids in college, and I want to know that. I ask them that. I have meals with them once or twice a week, and I sit down and just get to know them personally.
I think that's huge. Again, back to the Simon Sinek book, like they say that the part of the brain that feels all the emotions has no language, right? And that's why they say we speak in metaphors, because we're trying to convey what we feel, but we don't really, there's no language to it. Right. So when you sit down and talk with them and they're able to tell you they just want some acreage and so that their family can, like, that's kind of satisfying that need in them. And then they feel like you care. And so they'll run through a wall for you.
There you go.
Where'd the name Rehab Squad come from?
I can't really say. I just know it's. I've always been kind of like a team player, if you will. And I got to a point, like I said, as an investor, because my company was not Rehab Squad originally; it was something else. And I got to a point where I built this solid, kick-ass team, right? And I felt like I belonged to them, because when I started construction, I didn't know how to put on a light bulb, right? Like I saw the opportunity, and I was like, I can make money here, and I figured it out, and I was there with them initially, 10 years ago, 13 years ago, I was there with them. I wouldn't go. Like, if I had nothing to do for that day, I would stay there with them. If I was just sitting down on a paint bucket and just watching them, I was doing that. But I was talking to them. I was engaging with them. I got to a point where I felt like a part of the team, and I saw the necessity. I saw the need of, like, hey, you need me, I need you. We're a squad, man. And then rehabs, obviously. I got into the investor realm and the community, and I knew, that's what they called them, was rehab. So Rehab Squads was born.
Do you work much with homeowners?
Oh yeah.
So you do retail and investor business?
There is a retail aspect of Rehab Squad. My wife kind of handles that. Yeah. I don't do retail. I mean, because I speak the investor language, and that's why Rehab Squad has gotten as far as it has, because I know hard money loans, I know all the inspections, I know how points work, I know all that. So I can speak an investor, I can speak in their language. So I do insurance work, I do retail work, so I'm a licensed adjuster, so I dip and dabble where I can, but I personally man the investor rehab.
Become a licensed adjuster?
That's how I started, man. It was an opportunity.
Really?
Yeah, 13 years ago, I got my license as a adjuster, and I was doing like insurance work all over the country. I was traveling, and I was saved up a bunch of money, and that's how I got into my first real estate deal, and I stayed licensed, I guess, if you will, as like my plan B if anything was to ever go sideways. I know I can go get a job at an insurance company, and so I kept my license around.
Well, but now you can do insurance work, and you really you're up to date, and you understand.
Yeah. I can go head to head with an adjuster all day, man.
So tell me about that first real estate deal.
Man, it was a partnership between me and my mom. Like I said, my parents were entrepreneurs in their own way, and my mom growing up had always like saw opportunities. Her father was an entrepreneur, businessman, and basically, she and I just went and partnered in the deal.
That's excellent.
09, man.
09.
Yeah.
So coming out of the bad stuff.
And my mom, she didn't know how to read English or nothing, but when they said sign right here, here's an opportunity, she signed right there. She put the money up, I put my money up, and we went at it.
Did it work out all right? No. We're going to talk about that in a minute when we come back from break. Stick around, we'll be right back.
REI Inc. is a monthly business publication for real estate investors, covering all types of real estate investments and strategies. It is the most comprehensive real estate investment publication on the market. All of the articles are written by the top leaders in the industry, so investors are assured of always getting the best information possible. Each month, REI Inc. also profiles the top companies in the industry and provides insights and data into key regional markets. Along with their sister platforms, the REI Referral Network and Highest Invest, real estate investors have exclusive access to off-market investment opportunities and national acquisition and disposition initiatives. To learn more, visit www.rei-inc.com, where you can also access the REI Referral Network. Also, be sure and visit www.highest-and-best.com to view the latest exclusive off-market assets with near immediate acceptance decisions and closing strategies. You can also email marketing@rei-referralnetwork.com to request more information.
Welcome back to Uncontested Investing. I'm Tim Harris. Thanks for sticking around. I'm still here with Ray. Ray, we're going to talk about that deal you do with your mom in a minute, but first, the money minute. Imagine, this will be a fun one. Wait, do you already know what you're going to say? Okay, then I'm not going to set you up my way. 60 seconds, best thing that you can tell someone out there listening, pour into them. You got it? Go.
60 seconds, man. The only thing that I can preach on, I've always preached on, is the building relationship part. So find a good GC that you vetted, that you build a relationship with, let them handle all the grunt work, leg work, and you just free up as much time as you can to grow this business. You got into this business for your family, for the Lambo, for whatever the case may be, whatever your why is. Your why is not being at Home Depot. Your why is not being at Floor & Decor. Like, you should not be out there boots on the ground. That's what you pay a GC for. You will pay a premium for a good GC, totally fine. I mean, Ed Milet said it better, best in his book, just seek inconveniences. There's not a millionaire out there that got to being a millionaire without being inconvenient or having inconveniences, I'm sorry. Having inconveniences is a part of it. Embrace the suck.
So after 22 years in the business, I still don't have a GC. But I do. I mean, I have a guy that's worked with us for 7 years, and in essence, he's a GC.
That's your GC, man.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little more involved than I probably should be, but my wife just enjoys the transformation so much.
Yeah.
I love going to Home Depot when it's not for work. Like, somebody said, what would you do if you won the lotto? I was like, I would buy a Home Depot. They're like, what do you mean? I was like, I'd just buy it, and it would be my storage area, and I just buy everything in it, and, because I like the toys, right?
Yeah.
During the pandemic, during the lockdowns, a lot of contractors were afraid they weren't going to be able to drive. They were going to get arrested because if they didn't have the letter saying they were essential personnel.
Yeah.
And I went and built this cedar fence at a house because there was just nothing to do. Right. And I'll never forget, my wife pulls up. She goes, "You've been holding out on me." And I was like, well, I mean, I grew up in a construction family, so yeah, but you're right. And I say it all the time from the stage. It's like, don't be me. If you're not a professional GC, if you don't have a construction background, you've got no business running a project.
Correct.
I mean, and one of the things I'm personally struggling with right now is, you have to find ways to compound your time.
Oh, yeah.
And you can't compound your time being the person that has to figure out which type of Mortise lock is going to fit in that original door.
Right.
Right? Like, which I had to do on that old historic house. And so we actually talked about it on that house, and I'll go ahead and be vulnerable.
Sure.
Right. I mean, it took us 16 months to rehab that house. Probably cost us $60,000 or $70,000 in interest.
Wow.
I mean, it's an expensive house. But when you look at it, I probably could have shaved 4 or 5 months off if I had went and hired the right GC.
Right.
And that 4 or 5 months, I'm not sure that the entire interest amount would have went to the GC, but even if it did, I would have been a lot happier.
Because you save time.
I saved time, and it doesn't change your attitude towards that investment. Right? It's still the house you love. It's still the thing that you want to have in your portfolio. You're still proud of the project. I hate that house right now. Like, that house, I mean, fighting with the historic board, fighting with the city, the permit requirements, the plan requirements, the specs, we did a dual zone HVAC system, and with the 2 thermostats for 1 unit, and then that messed up, and then they couldn't remember where the diverter switch was for the baffle, and so they're ripping the ceiling out. I'm just standing in the living room like, oh crap. It's just,
Yeah.
So I think it's not just the time. I want the audience to hear this. It's not just the time that you save, and it's not just the emotions that you save. It's what else could I have been doing with my energy,
Correct.
right? My mindset,
Yeah.
if I wasn't stressed with that.
Correct.
Do you see that a lot from the customers?
I do see that a lot, man. It's a peace of mind. It's a peace of mind that you get. You do save a lot of time, and which is valuable in and by itself, but it's the peace of mind. It's like you said, what could I have been doing with that time to better myself, my family, my situation?
What part of the business do you like the most? Is it the transformation? Is it the money? Is it the people? Like what is it that you like the most about being a general contractor?
Learning. I learn something every day. Every single day, there's something to learn, whether it's from a client or one of my subs or something. It's like it's like the growth process. I enjoy like growing, and I believe in like learning. You learn something new every day as a GC. There's some kind of obstacle, I guess it goes hand in hand. Like if you say, what do I like the most? Like the challenge. I know today I'm gonna get a phone call about something, and I'm gonna have to like jump that hoop when I get there, cross that bridge, whatever is the challenge, man. And I'm gonna learn something from it.
Right. Especially in the rehab business, because it's not building houses.
Nope.
This old house, man, I guess I should have like let people come tour it while we were demoing it. I mean, between the weights for the original windows in the wall, and I mean, this house was built in 1885.
Yeah.
So it had some 14-foot hand cut 2x4s.
Wow.
And which basically, when you tried to cut them, it was almost like trying to cut an I-beam.
Right.
I mean, at this point, it's petrified wood, right? I mean, it was insane. I mean, just all the different nuances of that. And after 23 years in this business, I'm like you, I still learn.
Yep.
Every project. Every project, there's a drainage issue, a foundation issue, an electrical issue. And then when you think you're done learning, the home inspector comes in and teaches you another lesson.
Another lesson. Yeah, man.
I hear a lot of investors say this. I want to ask you your opinion on this. They say, oh, you got to leave something for them to find, talking about home inspectors. Do you believe in that?
I don't believe in that. I mean, they're going to find something anyway. You can't cover every single thing, but I don't believe in it.
What's the biggest mistake you see investors make?
Cut corners. Definitely cut corners.
Like how?
I believe that, they focus too much on a lot of investors use like this percentage or this formula or whatever, and they buy a house and they think they know what they're going to take home. They're set on that number. So anything happens, they make decisions where like, that's going to affect mine. I'm not going to take 60K home. I'm going to take 55K, and I don't want that. So they cut that corner to, and they think they're saving something money, and then it always ends up, biting them in the butt in the long run.
I always joke around, there's two types of rehabs. There's over budget and there's way over budget.
That's right.
I mean, because unless you have x-ray vision.
Yeah.
Unless you're going in, but I see what you're saying. So what you're saying is when something goes wrong with like the plumbing under the foundation and they're $5,000 over on that, they try to take $5,000 from something else they knew they needed to do.
Right.
Yeah. If I've got all these sayings, like you can't rehab your way out of a bad buy.
Right. You got some good sayings, man.
Dude, I mean, it's me trying to convince my wife at night. Right? It's like once you spent that money, you spent that money. I mean, and sometimes you spent the money before you even know you spent it.
That's right.
Right? I mean,
You got to rip off that Band-Aid.
Right.
Got to rip off that Band-Aid and just like, lick your wounds and keep going, man.
I've got there's 4 or 5 houses in 23 years that when I kind of do a post-mortem in my head, it's like, oh yeah. Well, it's what made me lose the money on those houses was not being willing to bite the bullet, to rip off the Band-Aid, right? It was trying to salvage a good situation gone bad. And you probably remember Richard Weeks used to work with me and Adam.
Richard, yeah.
And I'll never forget, it was in one of my companies. We were trying to get out of this office lease, and they had made me a proposal, and we're in the board meeting, and I didn't like the proposal. I felt like it was too stingy.
Yeah.
And he goes, Tim, sometimes a good deal is getting out of a bad deal.
Oh, man, that's a good one.
And I was like, you're right. Yeah. Right? Like, I may be paying more for this, but then I'm at least not paying this. Right? Like, that was our situation. It was like 12, 15 grand a month for this one, but this one was going to be 2,500 a month, but I felt like the dollar per square foot was too high.
Yeah.
But he's like, dude, you know,
there you go.
Take it and leave, right?
I remember Mr. Weeks, you know, he was a mature man, so I think that experience was talking there. And that's what you get, you know, when you're dealing with GCs that are established. You're paying a premium for their experience. How much time are you going to save with this guy who knows what he's doing versus, you know, this guy and his brother out of a van, you know?
And it just depends if you're willing to listen, doesn't it?
That's right.
All right, so we're going to run out of time soon, but is there anything we haven't covered that you would like to share from your experience and wisdom?
There might be a couple of things.
Little tips and tricks, things investors do wrong, things they should be doing different.
Yeah, definitely, you know, building the relationship part. I believe that they focus too much on the money. I think that some investors even go into like a relationship with a GC with that mindset that, oh, he's going to screw me. So, and it's transparent. Like most good GCs can feel that energy, right? And unfortunately, we don't have x-ray glasses, right? So sometimes we're the bearer of bad news. We have to tell them, and we have to give them this option, like, this is what's happening. Do you want to fix it? This is what I recommend. And they see that as like, oh, you're just trying to get me, right? And that's bad. Like you should focus on, you know, getting to know that person, and it goes both ways. It's a mutual road, right? Getting to know that person and make sure that you guys are a good fit, because you're running a business, and essentially, if it works well, you keep building together. It's a team thing. And investors think about it like they're just like the lone wolf, you know?
Right. What are some common misunderstandings that, I won't say you have with your customers, that your customers have with you?
Misunderstandings, the change orders are always brutal. Like I said, I'm always the bearer of bad news, because we're going to uncover something and I have to let them know. I'm not going to band-aid it. I'm not going to look past it. It's like if it's there and it's got to be addressed, because I'm an investor, because I know it's going to come up in an inspection, we have to nip it in the butt. So like, I always have to tell them the bad news, and there's a cost with it.
You didn't tell me about that. So I'll never forget, it was one of the first houses I rehabbed. It had to be in 02 or 03, and it was on Warwick in Garland. And the guy I worked for at the time, because I was actually a project manager at the time, had a slow drain, and he thought there were roots in it. And he was like, go get some hydrochloric acid and pour it in there. He just wanted to eat the roots out, make it drain. And I'll never forget, I'm doing what he says. I'm in there pouring it in there, like choking to death. And I lean over and put my hand on the wall, and it goes right through the tile wall, right through the other tile wall on the other side. The entire wall starts collapsing on me. I'm bailing out of the tub. There's not a single stud in the surround.
Wow.
So many termites had been eaten on in there. Basically, the tile was holding the tile up. It was a great balancing act.
Yeah.
But that's one of those things, like, there's no way to know that's what's up.
Yep. There's no way, man.
And you just gotta, but I think I'm gonna wrap this up, because if you have the right relationship, if you spent the time getting to know your GC, and if there's a GC out there, if they spent the time to get to know the customer, then that conversation can go a lot different than if it's purely transactional.
I'm not transactional at all. I learned that, with time.
Right.
Yeah. And experience, like, you just can't be transactional.
That's right.
And so I tell people all the time, it doesn't matter if it's a $25,000 rehab or a $100,000 rehab. To me, it's all the same. Like, I want this rehab and the next rehab and the next rehab. Like, I want to build that with you. I want to be a part of that with you, and I want to just continue to do business. So I don't have to, like, do Google ads or rehab, Facebook ads or whatever. I don't. So it can be transactional, and that's one of the mistakes that real estate investors and GCs, make all the time. They see you as a dollar sign.
Right. Yeah. A wallet, a walking wallet.
Yeah, they see the walking wallet, or they see, like, how can I, milk this guy for his experience and all his subcontractors and get it, done cheap, good. fast, but you can't.
Cheap, good, and fast.
Gotta pick two, man.
So it's funny. You just said a $25,000 rehab. Is there such a thing anymore?
Well, it's been a while. I can't say it's been a while. It's been about maybe like 3 years or 4 years I've done 25K.
Yeah, it's been a bit.
Yeah, it's been a bit.
It's like when I see anything below $25 a foot these days, I'm just like, nah.
Not gonna happen, man.
Yeah.
Everything's going up. You have to face the fact.
It's gone
The
up.
trend.
Like it's gone up. Like, and that's the thing. And that's what I was teaching a class the other day. It's like, look, man, if you send me something that says $25 a foot, I'm probably not opening it. But if it says cosmetic only and $30 a foot, I may take a look at it, because at least then, like, cosmetic only means something totally different price wise today as it did 10 years ago, right?
Yeah, for sure.
All right, man. Any parting thoughts, parting shots?
Party shot.
He's been waiting for that one.
Oh man, you got a lot of good sayings. I got one too. I learned when I was a teenager is tough times don't last, but tough people do. So I always say, if you're a real estate investor, you gotta focus on that word, investor. You have to invest in yourself. You have to educate yourself. You gotta read. You gotta surround yourself with like-minded people. You just gotta be a part of a mastermind, even if you have to hire a mentor if you have to. But if you don't invest in yourself, then real estate investing is only going to get you so far. So I believe that we got some tough times right now. I know you talked about interest rates and things like that going up and how that's going to affect us. I got my own comments on that, but I think that for the most part, if you feel it's all in your mindset. So if you think about, if you're dealing with tough times, they're not going to last. But if you're tough, you'll last. So tough times don't last, but tough people do, man.
There you go. If someone's out there listening, they want to get in touch with you, network with you, how do they find you?
Well, I think the best way to get in touch with me, besides the socials, my handle is therehabsquad.com. Our website, www.therehabsquad.com. There's a contact form. I'll personally reach out back to you.
Very good, man. Well, thank you for taking your time to be here. Sure. I know it's not easy to do non-revenue generating. I can't imagine the things that you'll see on your phone when you're done here. But I really do appreciate you being here.
I appreciate the opportunity, man.
All right. Well, folks, we're out of time. Thanks for stopping back by. We'll see you next week. And remember, your network is your net worth. And today you've been growing both.
Thank you for listening to the Uncontested Investing Show. Questions about today's episode or the podcast? Email podcast@rcncapital.com and make sure to follow RCN Capital on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. See you all next time. The preceding program is furnished by RCN Capital, LLC. The information provided is for general education purposes only and does not constitute any legal, financial, investment, or other professional advice. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed of any speaker are the speaker's own opinion and do not represent the views, thoughts, and opinions of RCN Capital, LLC. No information contained in this episode should be construed as financial, investment, or legal advice from RCN or any individual, author, host, or guest. You should always consult a financial advisor before investing.